Welcome to Are You Ready for Life? I'm your host, Jude Avellino. I'm an attorney practicing law in New York and Summit, New Jersey. I have an LLM, or a Master's in Law, in Taxation from Georgetown, and I have over 20 years of experience. And in that time, I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with trusted colleagues and friends. Throughout this series, I will introduce you to some of these trusted colleagues to discuss topics to prepare you for life. One of life's major milestones is becoming a homeowner. Often, after living in a house for some time, you're ready to make some changes and enhancements to fit your lifestyle. This may require you to go through a process to get town approval. Now, having gone through this process personally, I know that in some instances it can be complex and frustrating. On our show today, my guest, Christa Anderson, will help provide an overview of this approval process, explain why it's necessary, and offer tips on ways to make it more efficient. Welcome, Christa, and thank you for being on the show. By way of background, Christa has served as the zoning officer for the City of Summit since 1990. In this capacity, and as a certified zoning official, she evaluates all planning and zoning board applications, approves the issuance of zoning certificates of occupancy, reviews construction permit applications for additions as to zoning compliance, and enforces the Development Regulations Ordinance, the DRO. She also promotes zoning information throughout the municipality to the public, developers, realtors, buyers, and sellers. Depending on the outcome of the project, Christa could be one of the most loved people in Summit, depending on the outcome. So Christa, thanks again for coming on the show. Let's start with some of the basics.
Well, I just want to thank you for having the show. What I'm hoping to do today is to eliminate some of the mystery and the anxiety around the process of filing for a variance if a homeowner has to do that.
Great. So let's see if we can accomplish that today. So let's start with some of the basics, the very basic. What is zoning, and how does a planning and zoning board operate?
A zoning comes about because the state of New Jersey has adopted a municipal land use law back in 1975. That allows every municipality in the state of New Jersey to create a planning board and to create a zoning board, and allows the municipality to create what you would call a zoning ordinance. We call it, as you mentioned, the Development Regulations Ordinance. That prescribes where things can go on the property, how big they can be, how close they can be to the property line, with a view to giving an opportunity to develop property, but doing it in such a way that it doesn't negatively impact the surrounding area or the neighbors. So the zoning board is the board that is set up to do that, to hear the applications when somebody needs a variance.
Great. Okay. So people often say, this is my house, this is my land, I should be able to do whatever I want. So why does the variance process exist?
Well, going back again to the Development Regulations Ordinance, it's an idea that protects the neighborhood and allows things to be a certain size but not too big, or in a certain place but not too close to the neighbor's property, so that everybody has a sense of privacy and a sense of their own property.
Fair enough. We do need rules.
Right.
Most people don't like them, but we do need them.
Right.
So let's start from the beginning of the process. From a homeowner's perspective, say someone wants to build an addition or build a patio, make a renovation. How do they even know if they need a variance?
Well, the real beginning of the process is when you buy the property, to make sure that you have a current, accurate property survey. That property survey is going to show everything that's on the property, where the property lines are, where the house is, the driveway, the detached garage, the pool, the air conditioners, the front walkway, everything that's on the property. And it should show the exact lot area in square feet. And it needs to have at the bottom the name of the person who did the survey, the date of the survey, and the license number. So based on the existing conditions, how would you know you need a variance? Most likely it's going to be that you had an idea and you went to see an architect and you said, I would like to add a family room and a deck and a master bedroom up above it. And most architects who practice in Summit are going to look at your survey and go, Well, you can't really do exactly what you want to do because you're going to need a variance. Another way that some people realize they need a variance is if they file for a construction permit and I review it and it doesn't comply, then
Right.
I'll write a letter saying for this reason or these reasons you need these variances. And a third way is prior to even buying a property, a lot of people will come to me and say, I really can only buy this property if I can add a pool or put another bedroom on or whatever the case may be. So that's the three basic ways that somebody would know they need a variance.
Gotcha. Do you recommend to people that before they buy the house, they have some kind of vision of what they want to do to it so that they know if they need a variance or not?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I agree with you, by the way. And it's interesting. You can tell people. I mean, in my mind, I always had that the engineer or architect was telling the homeowner if they needed a variance, but they come to you directly.
Sometimes they do.
Interesting. Okay. And I'm sure what they don't want to hear is after they submit a permit application, you tell them they need a variance.
Right. It happens sometimes,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay. Fair enough. If someone does need a variance, I'm interested in your thoughts. Do you think they need to hire an attorney?
That depends really on the complexity of the application. Attorneys, I always tell people, are the orchestra leader of your process. Takes a little of the anxiety away from the homeowner because this is new and different to them. And an attorney is going to have a specialty in land use law. So you don't have to, but it's usually advisable to.
Okay. I'd like to give you my thoughts on that, and I'm a little biased because I'm an attorney. I think it's very important to have an attorney represent you for a variance application. As Christa said, the attorney is the orchestrator. They're going to ensure the application is organized. I think a very important factor here is that the attorney is non-emotional. It's your house, you raise your family there, you have a feeling that you should be able to do anything reasonable that you want to do. And when there's some pushback from the town or from the board, my clients tend to get emotional. Lawyers will not. The lawyers will also coordinate your professionals by making sure the engineer and architect or whomever the professionals involved are all on the same page regarding the variances requested, and the attorney will know how to present them in the best light to the board. As for the hearing, and we'll get to the hearing in a second, Christa, the attorney will know the ebb and flow of the proceedings. He or she might know when a scale plans back in order to get to a result that makes the board comfortable. Keep in mind, planning and zoning boards are quasi-judicial bodies. Many lay people are not comfortable appearing in front of them. Your attorney should be. Your attorney is going to have familiarity with state and local law and is going to help you present and defend your project. The attorney will provide guidance on getting your neighbors to view your project as an asset to the neighborhood rather than a burden, hopefully reducing the chance that they will challenge the application at the hearing. What do you do if a neighbor objects? Do you know how to cross-examine that neighbor? Your attorney should. Think of it this way. You're spending sometimes upwards of 6 figures renovating your home. Don't try to save a nominal amount of money and forego hiring an attorney. You may pay for it in the long run. Just my thoughts. Christa, I'm interested. You see how many applications a month? What are your common frustrations when you see some of these applications?
I want to go back to a comment that you
Yeah.
made about me being maybe the most loved or not person in Summit. People who are filing an application do feel frustration at the beginning of the process before they even get to the hearing. And the reason that that happens is, unless you have an attorney, we in our office at the Department of Community Services are trying to guide you through. And if it seems like we're being very particular about filling out a form in a certain way or describing a project in a certain way, it's because this is all happening behind the scenes, and we and your attorney, if you have one, are trying to get the application most concise, most self-explanatory, most appealing, so that when you get to the board, the pushback is hopefully limited. So the process is an application. You'll have comments that are submitted by staff people. What you actually do when you have a public hearing is you're sworn, the applicant is sworn under oath, and the board does expect to have some testimony from the applicant. They want to hear personally from the applicant what it is they want, why they want it, and just to kind of make a connection with the board members. Those board members are just ordinary citizens, just like the applicants are. And then most likely there will be professional testimony by an architect or an engineer or a landscape architect. And the process is that after everybody testifies, as each one is finished with their testimony, the board could ask questions, and then anybody in the public who's interested in the project can ask questions. After all the testimony is done, the applicant can sit and listen to the board deliberating the process, deliberating the request, and you'll hear right that very night that your application is either approved or denied. Usually the hearings aren't more than about a half an hour.
Great. So I'm assuming common frustrations, my original question is when the application's not organized well.
Well, we keep going and keep going with the applicant in the office to say, you need to add this plan, you need to give more information, so on and so forth.
So what happens if you lose?
If you are denied, which is way less common than being granted, there is a process of filing an appeal. That has to go to the Superior Court of New Jersey. It's not done locally. The decision is over and done with locally, and you can file an appeal. But the grounds for an appeal are not I want a do-over. The grounds for an appeal are there was some legal flaw in the way the process was handled.
Right.
That's a very high threshold of proof.
Right. The standard is the decision has to be arbitrary or capricious or unreasonable.
Right.
Very high standard. You have one shot. And if you win, can you start breaking ground right away?
Well, if you win, you'll know that the night of the hearing. A memorializing resolution is produced by the board attorney. It is signed at a meeting approximately a month later. Absolutely critical is that you read every word of the resolution. I can't even tell you how many times people don't read the resolution, because at the end, the resolution says this is granted on the following conditions. It may say that you need a grading plan. It may say that you need to produce a landscaping plan. It may say that you have to remove something from the property because that will be a benefit that kind of outweighs the detriment of the fact that you're getting a variance.
Right.
And those resolutions that are provided to you must come in with the construction permit application and must come in with a grading permit application.
Okay, read the decision. Christa, we're out of time.
Oh, we are.
But I wanted to thank you so much. I think the variance process from the perspective of the city, and more specifically the zoning officer, is invaluable. If you want to renovate your home, there are processes in place to ensure that your proposed plans keep within the rules and regulations of the city. If your neighbor wanted to install a Ferris wheel in their backyard, you would not be happy. You would want your voice heard. This process is not meant to micromanage you. Rather, it's to ensure that what you and your neighbors are doing keeps within a neighborhood aesthetic. Often your home is your biggest asset, and it's one of your most important assets. Make sure you surround yourself with the right professionals when you're thinking of renovating your home. And if you need a variance, please make sure you consult an attorney. If you're thinking of doing a home renovation, I hope our discussion today allows you to answer this question confidently. Are you ready for life?